What would you do if a wounded stranger rode through your gate, just when you thought life had nothing left to surprise you? In today's emotional Old West story, you'll meet a brave frontier widow who refused to give up after losing her husband. But when one desperate man arrived seeking help, her quiet ranch became the center of a dangerous fight that would change her life forever. If you enjoy heartfelt Western stories filled with courage, faith, and unexpected love, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable frontier tales. Now, grab your seat and let's get started. The autumn of 1874 settled quietly across the rolling plains of the Montana Territory. Frost covered the tall grass each morning, and a cold wind swept down from the distant Rocky Mountains. On a lonely stretch of frontier land stood the Whitmore Ranch, a place built with years of sweat, sacrifice, and hope. Yet the cheerful laughter that had once echoed across its fields had vanished months earlier when Thomas Whitmore was laid to rest beneath the old cottonwood tree overlooking the ranch. His widow, Sarah Whitmore, refused to abandon the life they had built together. Though many believed a woman could never manage a frontier ranch alone, Sarah rose before sunrise every day. She saddled horses, repaired broken fences, chopped firewood, and drove cattle across open pasture with the same determination her husband had admired. Every blister on her hands reminded her that survival on the American frontier belonged to those who refused to surrender. The neighboring ranchers often rode past, offering pity instead of respect. Some suggested she sell the ranch before winter arrived, warning that rustlers, wolves, and the coming snow would destroy everything. Sarah simply thanked them and continued working. Deep in her heart, she had made a promise beside Thomas's grave that as long as she drew breath, the Whitmore Ranch would never belong to another family. Late one evening, dark clouds rolled across the western sky. Thunder echoed through the hills as the wind carried the scent of rain. Sarah hurried to secure the livestock before the storm reached the valley. As she closed the final gate, she noticed a lone rider approaching in the fading light. The horse staggered with exhaustion, its sides covered in dust and sweat. The rider leaned heavily over the saddle, barely able to stay upright. Before Sarah could call out, the horse stopped inside the ranch gate, and the man slipped to the ground with a painful groan. Without hesitation, Sarah rushed toward him. His coat was soaked with blood from a wound near his shoulder, and his face was pale from loss of blood. He looked no older than 30, with weary eyes that showed both fear and determination. As Sarah knelt beside him, he weakly grabbed her sleeve. "Please," he whispered through trembling lips. "Don't let them find me!" Before she could ask who was chasing him, the stranger lost consciousness. Sarah looked toward the dark horizon where the storm gathered. Something told her that whoever had wounded this man was not far behind, and by bringing him into her home, she might have invited danger to the Whitmore Ranch once again. Sarah struggled to carry the wounded stranger into the cabin before the storm broke. She laid him on Thomas's old bed, cleaned the deep bullet wound in his shoulder, and wrapped it with fresh bandages made from torn linen. Throughout the night, she kept the fire burning and changed the bandages whenever the bleeding returned. By sunrise, the stranger finally opened his eyes. "My name is Daniel Carter," he said weakly. "I once served as a Union Army scout. Now I'm carrying evidence that can put the Black Ridge Gang behind bars forever." From inside his coat, Daniel revealed a small leather pouch containing official documents and a map showing the gang's hidden camps and stolen cattle routes. The outlaw leader, Silas Crow, had murdered innocent settlers for years, and Daniel had barely escaped after stealing the papers. If the gang recovered those documents, every witness who had helped the law would be hunted down. Before Sarah could answer, the distant sound of galloping horses echoed across the valley. She looked through the cabin window and saw 6 armed riders approaching the ranch. Their leader wore a black hat and carried 2 revolvers at his belt. Sarah immediately hid Daniel beneath a loose section of the cabin floor and covered the opening with a rug. A loud knock shook the front door. Silas Crow stepped inside without waiting for permission. "We're looking for a horse thief," he said with a cold smile. He rode this way last night. Sarah met his eyes without fear. I've seen no one but my own cattle. The outlaw searched the barn, the corral, and every corner of the property, but Sarah never allowed him inside the bedroom where Daniel lay hidden beneath the floorboards. After several tense minutes, Silas cursed, mounted his horse, and warned her, "If you're lying, widow, we'll return." The moment the gang disappeared over the ridge, Sarah and Daniel saddled 2 fresh horses and rode through the night to the nearest U.S. Marshal's office nearly 40 miles away. Daniel handed over the stolen documents, giving the law everything needed to track the gang. Within days, U.S. Marshals arrested Silas Crow and the remaining outlaws. Peace slowly returned to the frontier, and the Whitmore Ranch was finally safe again. The townspeople praised Sarah's courage, but she asked for no reward. She believed helping a stranger was simply the right thing to do. As winter settled over Montana, Daniel remained at the ranch to recover. Working side by side, they rebuilt broken fences, cared for the cattle, and found hope where sorrow had once lived. What began with a wounded stranger riding through the gate became the beginning of a new life, proving that even after great loss, the frontier still held room for faith, courage, and love.